So, some news came out about 2.2, and it sparked a lot of controversy, and I want to give my thoughts on it. This video isn't going to be too high effort, it's going to be a little ranty. Even though I'm not upset about anything, it's ranty in the sense of I'm just spouting stuff off, and I'm not putting that much effort into what I'm saying. I'm just kind of putting my thoughts out here, and that's about it, so... But, basically what's going on is it was announced via the Discord that RobTop would not be adding Explorers in 2.2 and would instead be adding it in 2.21. Now, I don't think this is a big deal personally, however, the outrage I've seen from this is immense, to say the least. Now, I want to say that, first of all, I get why people are frustrated. This update's been in the works for about 7 years, and it's insane to me that within those 7 years, Explorers still isn't done being made. All the RobTop levels are still being worked on. I think Dash is finished, from what I understand, but Explorers is still not done, and it is insane to me that RobTop has actually most likely spent more time bug fixing and adding new features than he has finishing and polishing the base RobTop main level demon thing. Now, don't get me wrong, there is the whole fiasco where the teaser for Explorers dropped, and then Rob said that he was probably going to rework it, and so I imagine that ever since the sneak peek, he basically rebuilt Explorers. What I do know is that this is just a very, very bizarre situation. At the end of the day, I know I'm not upset about it. And by the way, the reason I'm not is because it is kind of tradition at this point for an update to come out and for it to be missing a feature. For example, 2.1, when it first dropped, we couldn't use high detail textures, and it took update 2.21 to get the high detail textures. And that's something I also want to talk about. A lot of people are making it sound like we have to wait an entire update just to get Explorers. That's not really true. There is a history of sort of mini updates that patch things that usually only take like a couple weeks to come out. So we might only go a few weeks without Explorers. 2.21, as I mentioned, had the high detail graphics. I believe, if I remember correctly, it also added the weekly demon? Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it did. But the point is, like, it's not too weird for Rob to wait and keep a bunch of features out and then push them out in the micro update. It's kind of funny because I'm pretty sure this has already happened with a couple modes. Like, I think this was a thing that happened to Versus Mode. I'm pretty sure Versus Mode was just straight up delayed, but I don't know. See, I'm not upset about it, but in terms of how I feel about it from a professionalism standpoint, I'm a little mixed, because on one hand, pushing the level back is going to be a good thing because it'll allow the level to be as fun as possible. But on the other hand, it's just weird because, like I said, this game has been in the works for 7 years. That being said, I know a lot about this game's features that have been added and all that stuff, and if you're really observant, you might actually know that the keyframing system was specifically for Explorers. I made a tweet analyzing this fact, believe it or not, and it's very interesting. So, in the keyframing teaser, one of the things RobTop shows as an example of a keyframed animation is a skull bouncing up and down with its mouth opening and closing and all that sort of stuff, right? And then when we actually got the sneak peek for Explorers, that is the animation for the skulls that are between the jump rings. And we anticipate that if you click in these orbs, it kills you or whatever. I'm not sure, but the point is, I'm almost certain that the keyframing system that Rob added was added specifically to animate these skulls in Explorers, and so that tells me that Rob had just started working on it around that time, and that's why it took so long to get the sneak peek, but no idea. I guess my opinion on it at the end of the day is I'd rather wait for Explorers to be added to the game than have it be rushed and not fun to play. And people are making it sound like it's gonna be like, oh man, the update's not gonna have a main level. No, it is. We're still gonna have Dash, and at the end of the day, like, it might not be a demon, but at least we get something, you know? And, I mean, it's weird because a decent chunk of the community has said that maybe it'd be cool to cut some features and add them in later just so 2.2 can come out faster. And then Rob does that and it causes outcry, so I don't know, but I think, like, it's one level, and let's be real, GD is kind of carried by the user levels anyway. When 2.2 comes out, most people are going to be excited to play the new user levels and mess around in the editor, so yeah, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I mean, me personally, when 2.2 comes out, I'm probably going straight into the editor after beating the main levels, so, you know. I just think it's a weird thing for people to get upset about, but at the same time, I can also understand the people saying that it should be done. Like, there's two sort of reactions I've seen towards this. The first is people just being unreasonable, saying that it's annoying that the level's not getting released in time, and just, you know, screw Rob Top, and blah blah blah, and just being overall very immature. But then there's a second take that is still against the idea, but it's way more grounded of, well, I'm okay with the level not being in the update and being pushed back to a micro update. He had 7 years. He should have probably made it some point within those 7 years. Because, I mean, like, Hinkick Explorers being the song was one of the first things that was revealed in 2.2. Like, this teaser image came out forever ago, and we figured it out so quickly. And so you'd think sometime between then and now he would have gotten it finished, but I have no idea. I'll say another reason I'm being so forgiving towards this fact is that originally I was very worried about 2.2. I made a whole video about my concerns with it, and my main concern at the end of the day was that certain features like the arrow trigger were going to lead to levels being more on-site readable because, well, there were levels that were being promoted from the 2.2 private server that were so on-site readable that they looked more like K-pop fan cams than they did actual playable levels. These were levels that looked really cool, but played like absolute garbage. Like, not even because the gameplay's bad, but because, like, the camera would shift around so much that you couldn't even see the gameplay. This fear has completely dissipated, however, because as of recently, some of the 2.2 private server levels have been popping off in quality. We've been getting stuff like Red Rooms and In the Castle. Actually, I'm glad these are the two levels I'm mentioning, because Red Rooms is a perfect example of what a good 2.2 side-scroller level will look like, and In the Castle is a perfect example of what a good platformer level will look like. It's, in general, just all really well-made, great, high-quality stuff, and if this is being made on a private server that has a limited amount of 2.2 features from a leaked copy of the update, then I'm pretty sure when the full update comes out, people are going to be able to make way better levels. Because obviously the levels made in the official update are going to be better than the private server levels. And so, you know, it's just going to be this big boom in quality. And also keep in mind, the 2.2 private server levels are very limited because you can only either build on mobile or on BlueStacks, and both of those methods are very limiting in controls and make building way harder. And on top of that, not every one of the amazing creators that build in 2.1 right now have access to the 2.2 private server. A lot of them just haven't downloaded it, haven't tried it out. And so when 2.2 actually comes out, we'll get a lot more creators that work on 2.1 messing around with the 2.2 editor, and we're going to get a lot of better levels. Like, I anticipate some insane shit being made. Like, imagine Blee or Sputniks getting their hands on 2.2. That's what I'm basically expecting. Just in general, some of the features, like, I don't know if you follow this account, it's Daily 2.2 News or whatever. This 2.2 News channel is way better than most of the ones I've seen up until this point because they're way more grounded, the videos are pretty short, and all they do is they just present what news has been posted each day. The only downside is they can clutter up a sub box pretty quickly because they always upload one video a day even if there is no news, so that can be a bit meh, but, you know, it's not that big of a deal. Anyway, the point is, if you follow this account like I do, you've seen a lot of the recent stuff that's been added, and even before this account, I've always been aware of all the features. I've followed this update very closely, and I know about a lot of obscure stuff. Like, if I'm not mistaken, you can just remove collision from any block, making it so literally any block can function as a decoration block, which is a really cool feature. Even that aside, some of the recent features I've been seeing are insane. Like, using the sound effect trigger, and this is demonstrated by RobTop, so this is 100% a thing. Using the sound effect trigger, it is possible to write music using triggers in the editor. Which is insane, and it looks so much easier than using like an actual DAW, which is saying a lot because DAWs aren't really that hard to use in general, and this could lead to a ton of creativity, and I could unironically see there being musicians making music in GD. It sounds goofy and funny, but it also sounds like a thing that could legitimately happen. In general, I think there's a lot of potential within this update, and I feel like with how cool the shit people are going to be making in this update is, people shouldn't let explorers not being in the update get them down, because it's such a small and minuscule thing, it really doesn't matter. You're still getting a main level at launch, and you're going to get all these insane features. Just enjoy the update, wait a few weeks, and we'll get the micro update, and we'll get explorers.